Next, we're going to talk about the voltage-controlled amp. And I should have actually opened this entire demonstration with this lovely little bit of information. When dealing with the ARP 2600 of any kind, whether it be the original or Korg, keep in mind that there is this slider at the top of the voltage-controlled amplifier, the initial gain as it is called. And what it does is it reduces the control of various things over the amplifier and basically opens the amplifier up so it's just on. So if your ARP 2600 is making noise constantly and you're like, I'm not even playing anything, why won't it stop? It's probably because your initial gain is up. So that's the thing we're going to start off with on the voltage controlled amplifier is initial gain. Here, listen. So if you are doing something where you need the amp open for whatever thing you're doing and you just need it to stay open, initial gain is great for that. You can actually add it to sounds just to fill out the sound in an interesting way. It's very useful, but if you're not familiar with the concept, it will mean that at some point you'll be frustrated that your synth won't shut up. So keep in mind that's the initial gain. When ARP designed the ARP 2600, they really, really wanted to pile as many different functionalities in at once. So like it's really a novel design in the sense that they really thought about what an electronic musician would be needing and how to provide the most options in the smallest amount of space. Even in the big one, they were still doing that. And so each of these sections, especially from now on that we're going to explore, have a multitude of uses, and the hard wiring does not necessarily dictate how that the functions can be used. And it's certainly true here in the voltage controlled amplifier. We have a variety of audio and control inputs that are hardwired, but at some point, these things could be anything you want them to be. So let's dive right in. What we were just hearing was the AR section, the AR envelope, controlling the amp, voltage controlling the amp, while we were listening to the output of the voltage controlled filter. That's what settings you're seeing here, VCF. That's your output from the voltage controlled filter where the mixer is going into your amp. It's super important. And then the second half of these jacks are control. You can see audio. That's the audio inputs. Control, those are the voltages that will be controlling the amplitude in the voltage controlled filter, or voltage controlled amplifier. So right now we're hearing the attack release envelope controlling the amplifier. Of course, we could listen to the ADSR control it. And any voltage that you want to output from anything can control the VCA. So, if you wanted to do something crazy and switch your oscillator 1 into low frequency range, pop that in one of these control things. There, now your oscillator is controlling your voltage controlled amp. It's just the hard wiring has the AR and the ADSR, but any voltage you want to put in there can control the voltage controlled amplifier. The same goes for these audio inputs. It's very reasonable to have the audio output from the mixer section in the voltage controlled filter as the hardwired option. But again, if you did not want that and you, for whatever reason, wanted a sine wave from oscillator 2 going into one audio input and the output from the ring modulator going into, well, actually, that's hilarious. You could actually just wire that yourself. So let's take something, the pulse output from your third oscillator. You would have no sound because you're not telling it to be controlled by something. So any audio input or even voltage, you could put it in there, but it may not do anything. You can plug into these audio inputs and have that happen as your voltage. And of course, you can mix the amplitude of those audio signals in the same way that you could mix the intensity of the voltage control. And I should point out, and this is super cool, you don't have to choose between your control voltage inputs. You can use both AR and ADSR simultaneously to create a new and more complex envelope, which is a revelation. This should have been a very common thing in early keyboard synthesizers because it's just so cool. So let's make the AR really snappy. And then we could have something long and languid in the ADSR. So at this point, you can hear the AR doing its thing and then the remnant of the ADSR. So yeah, you can mix and match your envelopes. And then, you could even take your envelope outputs and get them over here in the voltage processors and invert them, and then have one positive envelope fighting a negative envelope that's lagged, or, you can do all kinds of means of controlling the amplitude of the VCA. That's the great thing they've given you. And of course, the output you can always put into, loop it back into the ring modulator to create some feedback outcomes. And it's a very versatile little audio and voltage mixing section in the midst of our VCA, when so often synthesizers, the VCA, you don't have any control over it at all. The envelope controls it and you don't get anything. So this is better. Okay, so this is the VCA found on the Korg ARP 2600M.